Oh my god!
Ladies and gentlemen, if you're seeing this video, it probably means you've played a game of chess before in your life. And it also probably means that you've blundered some of your pieces before. Well, I blunder my pieces every single day. And today I'm going to be showing you 5 absolutely insane blunders from one of the greatest chess players to ever walk God's green earth. This player is named Magnus Carlsen. Some of you might know him, some of you might not. And if you don't know him, you might live under a rock. These 5 games are absolutely insane. And the final game, you actually might recognize.
Oh my god!
So with that being said, sit back, relax, and enjoy the games. Alrighty, so for our first game, we have Magnus Carlsen playing with the black pieces and his opponent playing with the white pieces. Magnus played a 67.6% accurate game, and his opponent played a 96% accurate game. There was one single blunder in this game, and you will never guess by who. And Magnus actually played a 1600 ELO rating on this game, and his opponent played like a 2500 ELO player. So, the game opens with e4. Magnus plays c6, d4, d5. This is a Carl Khan opening, by far the most potent opening in all of chess, and I actually have a chess dojo on this opening if you want to click the link in the description to join our Discord server. Very, very helpful if you're trying to progress in chess. Game continues with knight c3, d takes e4, knight takes e4, knight f6, knight takes f6 with check, e takes f6, and this is the Tartakower variation. The game continues with bishop d3, Magnus plays bishop d6, white plays queen h5, and you're not going to believe the move Magnus played here. He castled! And white delivered checkmate. Now, Magnus definitely pre-moved this castle, which is absolutely diabolical. But this game ended in 8 moves. Probably the quickest game Magnus Carlsen has ever lost in his entire career. Absolutely insane. Obviously, Magnus could have probably played something like, I don't know, like a6. Stopping this and stopping this simultaneously. And he did. And he moved too fast and lost the game in 8 moves. Absolutely diabolical, bro. So, for our second game, we have Magnus once again playing with the black pieces and his opponent, John Ludwig Hammer. I apologize if I butchered that name. Playing with the white pieces. John played a 91.4% accurate game, and Magnus played an 83.4% accurate game. There was one brilliant move by John, and one single blunder by yours truly, Magnus Carlsen. Magnus Carlsen played a 2200 ELO rating in this game, and his opponent played a 2450 ELO rating game. And it actually says John had a brilliant endgame. So let's jump right into it. The game opens with d4, d5, c4, e6, knight f3, a6, bishop g5, f6, bishop d2, and I believe this opening right here is the Queen's Gambit declined. A very, very popular opening. A lot of grandmasters don't usually play this opening from what I hear, but still a very, very solid opening. Essentially, white plays a standard Queen's Gambit, and say black goes here, and if black never takes this pawn, this will be the declined. If black were to play here, this would be considered the Slav defense, because you're defending the pawn from a different way. And yeah, so that was the opening here. So we have f6, bishop d2, d takes c4, e3, bishop d6, bishop takes c4, I believe. Yeah, bishop takes c4. And now white has an advantage early on. And the reason being is because Magnus played this knight here. And he needed to defend this pawn, apparently, but obviously these guys are grandmasters, and they are miles beyond my comprehension. Obviously, Magnus probably saw something a little bit different here, but when you don't push this knight, the pawn falls. And now the bishop's in the game, causing trouble, causing havoc, and if you played something like this, it's honestly a bit of an overextension, in my opinion. The engine doesn't hate it at all. Obviously, white's just going to slide back here for to continue the attack on this side of the board. But Magnus went with the knight. So the bishop took, bishop d6, e4, knight ge7, castles, And it's a very, very deadlocked position. And also that pawn that Magnus blundered, it wasn't really a blunder, it was more of an inaccuracy. He was up a pawn, if you recall. Right here, I believe, is where it happened. And right here, he's winning a pawn. So yeah, let's go ahead and rewind back real quick. So we have king h8, bishop takes e6, bishop takes h2 with check, sacking the bishop, which is just absolutely diabolical. Because when king takes h2, you have queen d6 check, and you collect the bishop right back. And Magnus Carlsen slides his bishop back, queen a3, queen takes a3, knight takes a3, knight a7, bishop e4, rook fe8, rook ac1, and then the rook slides over to rook ac8. So, it looks very, very deadlocked at the position. The bishop's attacking the knight, and obviously, if the bishop were to take the knight, your rooks would no longer be coordinated on the back rank here. So, honestly, not the biggest fan of that. I mean, obviously, you do get your rook a little further up the board, and then you're also going to be targeting this pawn, but then the rook is just going to slide over. So, knight d4, f5, f3, f takes e4, f takes back on e4, knight g6, knight f5, and rook takes e4. So, at this current moment, Magnus Carlsen is up a pawn right now. And his opponent needs to figure out a way to properly navigate, get his rooks in the game, possibly get them down to the 7th rank here eventually. And whenever you have your rooks in the 7th rank, you're honestly just completely suffocating your opponent. Because if the king isn't blocked, so like let's say the rooks were here. If the rooks were here and the king was here with these pawns, the only way he'd be able to get out is if he pushed his pawn and then he has a blocker here. But also, if the rooks are on the 7th rank, they could also take there. So, Magnus's opponent played bishop c3. And in this position, Magnus played bishop takes d5. A catastrophic blunder. But to the naked eye, it doesn't even look bad. It does not even look bad. I genuinely cannot even see the moves at this current moment. So the game continues with bishop takes g7 with check, king g8, bishop d4, rook takes d4, knight takes d4, bishop takes a2, b3, and Magnus almost got out of this here. I believe the best move here was to play, I want him to play c5, attacking this knight. And then the next best move, I guess the knight, what if the knight slid back here? And you play here. Obviously, that's probably not a good move. B takes b3. I don't know. But anyways, rook d8, knight e6, threatening the knight and the pawn. So this pawn is going to fall. Rook d2, rook c3, rook e2, knight f4, rook b2, knight takes g6, sacking the knight, mind you. Pawn takes back. Rook takes c7. Rook takes b3. Another catastrophic mistake from Magnus Carlsen. Rook d1. Knight c6. And the game ended with rook d7. A brilliant move from Magnus's opponent. And the reason being is because if rook comes over here, I believe the best move is to go here with check. And I guess if you do that, that's what the engine says. The engine says if he goes there, obviously you just take, and then, I mean, you have two rooks and a knight against a rook, or excuse me, a knight and a bishop, which is just night and day as far as finishing the game off goes. But let's say he didn't play that. Let's say he played, I don't know, something like rook f3, trying to defend this, but that's also a blunder because the pawn can still take. And then the other move is knight e7. And there's just quite literally no way to get out of this, because obviously these rooks are going to come down and create a checkmating threat here eventually, and you can't move your rook here because then the pawn would take, like I just said. You can't move your rook here because when it does come down for check, maybe you'll block, takes, and then when the rook comes in, it's like, let's just go over it real quick, check, and then if you go here, it'll be checkmate on the next move. And yeah, so in my opinion, I think the only way to really continue the game in this spot is probably to... I'm looking at the moves here. I'm assuming it's 97? Yeah, so 97 was already a choice. So what if... Gosh. What if he played here? Then it's mate in 2. Because in my head I'm thinking, okay, can we get the bishop down here? But obviously you can't. And if the rook takes, check, here, mate. And Magnus Carlsen lost this game due to a catastrophic bishop blunder. So let this be a sign. Everybody blunders, even the best players in the world. And if you're blundering your pieces, don't feel bad. The best players do it too. So let's get right into the next game. Alrighty, so in game 3, we have Magnus Carlsen now playing with the white pieces and his opponent, Yannick Pelletier. If I said that wrong, I apologize. And Magnus played he played a 94.8% accurate game, and his opponent played a 98% accurate game. There was one single blunder made by Magnus Carlsen, and Magnus Carlsen actually played like a 3,000 ELO player and lost this game, which is just otherworldly. And his opponent played slightly better, a 3,050 ELO game. So, the game opens with c4, knight f6, knight c3, c5, knight f3, e6, g3, b6, bishop g2, bishop b7, castles, bishop b7, b3, castles. And it's crazy, they are still in. This is move 8, and they're still playing theory. That's how strong these guys are. d6, d4, c takes d4, knight takes d4, bishop takes g2, king takes g2. And this is the English opening symmetrical hedgehog defense. I mean, if you ever play this in a game, kudos to you, but I'm probably not playing this. So the game continues with queen c8, e4, knight c6, knight c1, knight takes d4, queen takes d4, queen b7, rook fd1, a6, bishop a3, rook fd8, creating a threat coming down here. And Yannick has a massive threat brewing here as well. He's probably going to get his other rook in the game eventually, if I had to guess. Maybe not. Actually, no, I don't think he does at the moment. But both players are very, very solid. Loving the position. Black has an opportunity to push here eventually and perhaps try and break this, because you have a bunch of threats coming in here. But obviously, if his opponent, if Yannick, let's say, so Magnus's next move is to slide the queen back. And let's say Yannick does play here. If he does, that's actually a blunder due to bishop takes c7. That pawn's defending it. So you can't play that. That is the 1900 ELO brain analyzing a Magnus Carlsen position for you. So the game continues with rook d7, queen f3, bishop f8. I added some animation there because sliding the bishop back is kind of crazy to me. Rook d4, d5, bishop takes f8, d takes e4, knight takes e4, king takes f8, rook takes c7, knight takes d7, c5, bishop takes c5, knight takes c5, queen takes f3 with check, taking the queen, king takes f3, knight b6, and what just happened? Okay. Sorry. So we are on, knight b6, king e4, which Magnus Carlsen is moving his king into the game. Don't ever do this. If you're a beginner and you're below 1500 ELO, I highly recommend not doing this, because in the blink of an eye, you are going to get checkmated. And it's very, very, it's pretty simple to do so. Obviously, you're not going to go there, because when the king moves, and if you play a move like here, you still have this. So, oh my gosh, we're going to pretend that didn't happen. Malfunctioning. All right, so anyways, king sliding up. Pawn pushes to a5, knight d3, knight d5, rook c5, king d6, king d4, f6, a4, knight e7, rook b5, king c6, b4, knight f5 with check, king c3, and Magnus's king went literally all the way down the board. And now you're thinking, okay, his rook's going to get in the game. But obviously the rook's just going to be able to block. So A takes b4 with check. King takes b4. Knight d4. Rook h5. h6. Rook c5 with check. King b6. Rook c4. Knight c6 with check. King c3. Rook d8. Rook e4. Rook d6. Rook e2. Knight e7. Rook b2 with check. King c6. Rook b8. Knight d5 with check. King b3. King c7. And in this position, Magnus Carlsen blundered his rook. And once again, to the naked eye, it's very, very hard to tell what exactly this does in order to destroy the position. But when knight e7, attacking the rook, rook actually takes on g7. And when that happens, king c4, or excuse me, rook takes d3 with check. Did you see it now? I'm gonna pretend like I saw that. King goes over, or excuse me, the rook slides over. Knight jumps in, attacking the rook, and you would discover attack on the knight. And I'm assuming Magnus Carlsen calculated takes. Rook takes. King c4. But the rook gets back in time. And Magnus Carlsen is literally down a knight for 2 pawns. Still a very, very tricky endgame here. But these players are grandmasters. And at the end of the day, you can't push this pawn now, because the knight's going to take it. And Magnus Carlsen, I believe he resigned here. Or he ran out of time. I believe he resigned here. Resigned on move 59 after that catastrophic blunder. Blunders happen to everybody. Let this be a reference to that. Everybody blunders, even the best players in the world. So, next game. All right, so this 4th game by Magnus Carlsen, he played a 87.7% accurate game with the black pieces, and his opponent, Levon Aronian, who I actually met in real life, photo on screen. And these two players are so incredibly strong in this game. Magnus Carlsen played a 2650 ELO rated game, and Levon played a slightly better game, 2700 ELO. And they both actually blundered in this game, and you're not going to believe how it went. You are actually not going to believe how it went. So the game opens with knight f3, d5, c4. This is a ready opening, and this is actually a ready gambit now. d4, b4, c5, g3, c takes b4, a3, b3, d3. So in this position, a lot of you are probably thinking, ooh, queen check. But when you move the queen here, you just have the bishop just blocks here. So like, what if you did play something like this, bishop blocks, and you played here? Kind of weird. And you actually lose a pawn here if you go here, which is interesting. And now you're also threatening, like, the queen's in here. All this stuff's happening. But anyways, that's not actually what happened. So let's rewind real quick. So here, knight develops to c6, knight d2, pawn a5, and then queen takes b3. a4, which is an inaccuracy. And the official opening for this game is the ready opening, ready gambit declined advanced variation. Queen slides back, e5, bishop g2, knight f6, castles, bishop b7, rook b1, castles, rook b5, knight d7, bishop b2. A mistake, because when knight c5, jumping in here to attack, rook e1, bishop f5, knight e4, takes, f6. And Magnus Carlsen has a passer coming down the board eventually. That means there's no pawns in front of it. Obviously, this pawn can stop it, but no pawns in front of it. And Levon just does not have a very solid game. He's very, very passive. These two pieces are doing nothing right now. This bishop's over here eating a hot dog. Probably got some ice cream at the ice cream stand too while he was at it. And Magnus has to connect 4, and everything is just looking so solid in this position. But we're going to pretend that didn't just happen. Ah! What just happened? Okay. So where were we? Oh, where were we? Rewind. Okay, well anyways. This is the same game, right? Yeah, okay. And, okay, yeah, so then... Oh, yeah, I got confused because I thought the pawns were connected, but they weren't because I was reviewing that. Anyways, knight slides over to a5. Rook slides back. Bishop d7. Queen slides back. Bishop c6. Sixth. takes. Knight cb3. Knight c2. b5. C takes b5. Rook fb8. Knight takes b3. A takes b3. Knight b4. Rook takes b5. e4. D takes e3. And this is called en passant. If you are on the 5th rank, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and your opponent's pawn is on the 1st rank and they push their pawn 2 squares forward, you can actually take this way. Fun fact. Queen f3, rook d8, bishop takes e3, queen e7, rook c1, f5, rook bb1, queen e6, bishop d2, e4, queen e3, bishop takes b4. And there's mistakes all across the board. Now, I know this is a bit of a faster time control in this game, probably an important note I probably should have mentioned, but Magnus Carlsen, he takes this piece and it's just a catastrophic mistake and completely blunders his position. He was +2 in this spot too. Bishop takes back on b4, rook takes d3, queen a7, knight c4, and Levon blunders his rook. Queen takes c4. Queen a8 with check. King f7. Queen f8 check. King g6. Rook c1. Queen takes c1. Queen e8 check. King h6. Queen e6 check. And then Magnus Carlsen played the best move on the board. G6. Obviously, it's a joke. This isn't the best move on the board because Bishop F8 check. Magnus Carlsen has 2 rooks on the board and a queen, and Levon only has a queen and a bishop. King H5. Queen E7. And Magnus Carlsen resigned because there is a mate in 10 here. Rook takes there. Only move you can play to prevent mate. And if you don't play that, say you play something like this, main 1. And the king has no oxygen. If the king goes here, it'll be mate on the next move because the king still covers here. And literally any move that's not sacking the rook, I guess you could go queen g1. But the only way you can stop mate is if you sack a piece. And Magnus Carlsen resigned after blundering a +4.6 position. I hope after you see this game, when you blunder again, just know all those scars that you have turn you into the chess player that you are meant to be one day. So stay strong. Magnus Carlsen stayed strong, and he always prevails, as we all know. So, let's get into the final game, the most anticipated game of them all. Alrighty, guys, it is time for the moment you've all been waiting for. This game is from the recent Norway chess tournament. And when I say recent, it was a couple months back. And honestly, you've probably all heard about what happened in this game. It went viral. There were countless news articles about this, many posts with billions of views. But a lot of people don't really cover what exactly happened in the game to cause Magnus to have that sort of reaction. So, I'm going to break it down here for you. In this game, Gukesh had the white pieces, Magnus had the black pieces. Gukesh played a 93.4% accurate game. Magnus Carlsen played an 89.5% accurate game. There were no brilliant moves, and there was one single blunder. Magnus Carlsen played like a 2750 ELO rated player, and Gukesh played like a 2850 ELO rated player. So with that being said, let's jump right into this game. So Gukesh opens the game with e4. Magnus responds with e5, knight f3, knight c6, bishop e5, knight f6, d3, bishop c5, c3, castles, castles, d6, h3, a6, bishop a4. And might I remind y'all as well, this is a classical time control. So both players have 2 hours on their clock, and I believe they got some kind of increment after the, I want to say it was the 40th move, I want to say. And so these are very well thought out move, and they played theory all the way up until this move right here. And this is the Rui Lopez opening with a Berlin defense. So the bishop slides back, h6, rook e1, b5, bishop c2, bishop b6, knight bd2, knight e7, and this is an inaccuracy. And if you want to try and figure out why, be my guest. My 1900 ELO brain can't even comprehend why this is an inaccuracy. It honestly makes sense because you're trying to make way for the pawns to eventually start pushing up the board. And then I guess trying to like rotate the knight in here to have it cause some more problems for Gukesh. So the next move was a4, rook b8, d4, knight g6, knight f1, c5, knight g3. And this is also an inaccuracy, which is very, very interesting to me because like I said, I genuinely don't know why. Like in my little 1900 ELO brain, I'm thinking takes, 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 and then you blunder a piece. Because, you know, big brain. But that did not happen because these players are a lot better than me. So the game went bishop takes a4, bishop b7, d5, a5, bishop b3. And this is also an inaccuracy. Couldn't tell you why. Bishop c8, b3, bishop takes e3, rook takes e3, knight f4, bishop c6, and then there was just an absolute slurry of inaccuracies and mistakes. And both players are basically dead even right now. But these next 5 moves are just absolute slurries. So it goes rook b4, which blunders the advantage that Magnus had, apparently. Queen c2, a mistake. g6, king h1, bishop a6, queen a2, bishop d3, a great move given on the analysis bar. And then the game continued to progress, and Magnus is actually in a winning position here. Where was it? I believe it was somewhere right here. Magnus is in a winning position, and he continued to develop his pieces. And essentially, at the grandmaster level, you are trying to, instead of like looking for one move blunders, you're looking for very, very complicated sequences to where your opponent will eventually blunder into a tactic, causing them to crumble. Very, very complicated. These guys are seeing hundreds of moves ahead. And Magnus plays bishop d3, like I said, and he is in a winning position. The rook cannot take because the knight covers. So, knight d2, h5, another great move, furthering the advancement on the king side of the board. Queen takes, and Magnus actually sacked a pawn here, which is kind of diabolical. Oops, get rid of those arrows. Magnus sacked a pawn here, I believe. Yeah, he just sacked a pawn. But in the process, he absolutely starts obliterating the white position. And the knight has very limited squares that it can go. So then rook slides back, attacking the rook, which is an inaccuracy apparently. And this just makes no sense to me, because if takes, you just get the knight, right? F takes g3. Ooh. And what's crazy is that the knight is covering the bishop here. That's diabolical. But, geez. Anyways, rook slid up, rook slid over. Rook slides back. King slides up. Rook to a7. Rook d4. Knight f3. H takes g3. F takes g3. Knight takes h3. G takes h3. Bishop takes e4. King h2. In this position, Magnus is absolutely and utterly winning. He is +4 on the eval bar, which is just absolutely diabolical. Like, you should not lose this game, right? Like, completely and utterly should not lose this game. Game continued with rook d1, g4, bishop takes d5, bishop takes back on d5, knight takes d5, rook e2, knight f4, rook c2, king f6, h4, king e6, knight g5 check, king d5. And literally the sky is the limit here for Magnus. So rook a5 check, king d4, rook a4 check, king d3, rook f2, f6. And this was an inaccuracy, but I see what Magnus is trying to do. He's trying to attack this knight here, and let me rephrase that. I don't see what Magnus is doing. He's miles higher elo than I am, but obviously, like, to me, the naked eye, the idea is just to attack the knight and try and further the advancement of the pawns, right? So rook f3 check, king e2, rook a2 check, rook d2, blocking the check, rook takes, king takes, knight e4 check, king e2, king g3, d5, knight takes f6, rook f8, and the position is completely blundered. Now, there was a spot a little bit back there too where he had a much better position as well. But in this spot, both players are getting a little low on time, and they're trying to figure out a correct calibration of moves to finish off the game and defeat their opponent, right? So Magnus moves his rook over to f8, attacking the knight, which is a devastating mistake. Rook f2 check, king g3, d5, or wait. Oh, I got that backwards. Woo! Yeah, just got a spoiler. Sorry. King g3, d5, knight takes f6, rook f8, rook f2 check, king e1, knight d7, and Magnus Carlsen blundered the game. Because when rook takes on e2, king takes back on e2, knight takes f8, d4, knight e6, d3, knight c5, king e3, knight a4, e4, h5. And Gukesh's pawns are just faster. G takes h5. G takes back on h5. King d2. Rook b2. e3. Knight c4 check. King e2. King f4. And then the Magnus table slam happened. And the reason why it happened is because these pawns can't, like, just quite literally cannot get forward. Because if this pawn ever pushes, Magnus is going to take this pawn, and this pawn can never promote. And Gukesh has two passers that are going to be promoting to queens. And Magnus Carlsen had one of the most catastrophic blunders that left the chess world absolutely mesmerized. Absolutely mesmerized. After he slammed the table. So, with that being said, let this be a note to you. Everybody blunders. Every single person that plays chess on this entire planet has blundered a piece. No one is perfect. I do it every single day. You probably do it every single day. So don't let that deter you from playing chess. It's a part of the game. And without failures, without blunders, without mistakes, chess wouldn't be worth it. It wouldn't be worth it to climb a bunch of elo and get higher up in the elo rank. You know? So at the end of the day, stick with it. And never make the same mistake, folks. Never make the same mistake twice. So, with that being said, thank you so much for watching. And if you are interested, we have a chess Discord server, and the link is going to be in the description down below. And all you have to do is click that link, hop in the Discord. We have chess tournaments, daily chess puzzles, chess dojos, where I teach you how to get to 1500 elo in chess, and so much more. Everything, like I said, is going to be in the description down below. And guys, I appreciate y'all watching, and I hope you have a great rest of your day. Peace.